started at February 15th, 2023 at 6:12 or 5:12. Everybody please stand for that pledge. Ready? Begin.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, are there any changes to the agenda?
I have none.
Have council approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
We get a roll call, please?
Councilman Vosberg,
Aye.
Councilman Atkinson,
Aye.
Councilman Hedgecock,
Aye.
Mayor Horn.
Aye. Okay, next we have 2 awards, presentations, appointments, and proclamations. We have none. So we'll move on to 3 citizens' comments. This section of the agenda allows members of the public to address the city council on any item within the jurisdiction of the council. Members of the public, when recognized by the mayor, should come forward to the lectern, identify themselves, and use the microphone. Comments are normally limited to 3 minutes in accordance with the state open meeting laws. No action will be taken by the city council this evening, and all items will be referred to staff for a follow-up and a report. We have any citizens who would like to speak?
And you really only need to speak now if it's something other than animal control. If you want to speak on that, you can speak when we get to that item.
Okay, seeing that there's none, we'll move to public hearings. We have none. Consent calendar, we have none. Item number 6, ordinance, presentation, discussion, and potential action items for animal control. Marissa.
Thank you. So this workshop is very informal. It is being recorded and it is on YouTube live right now. So that's why we have the microphones out, because people who are watching from home or who want to watch later will need to hear you. So if you are speaking, please speak into the microphone. There is one here, and then the one on the podium is also live if you prefer to walk up there. The way that it works is it's more of a discussion than a regular council meeting. At a council meeting, it's somebody gets up and speaks when it's their turn, and then there's not really a lot of back and forth. And so this workshop environment allows some back and forth. And so what would typically happen now is council will start with opening comments if there's anything they want to say. And then if there's members of the public who would like to speak on something, the way that it tends to work best is, hypothetically, say Robin has a comment that she makes, and if you agree with her comment, you can raise your hand so that you're not repeating what she said later. And then there is an issue with animal control. Everybody knows that. So ideally, if you would like to present something that is an issue or a complaint, if you have a solution to propose, that would be very helpful.
Does anybody council have anything to say on this item? None? Any of the citizens have anything to say on this item?
Is there a length of time that somebody's speaking? Is it set up in that format?
No.
Okay.
Don't
Should-
reduce
So is there an open chair there?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
yes. I'll even,
Oh, the podium mic doesn't work.
No, that's just a wire.
Uh-oh, so it will be that one right there.
should I just move the chair or?
That one or
Sure,
that
I mean, I can move
This
over
one right
there.
here, I guess that one's not working correctly, so we'll
This
go ahead and
one's
use that.
working.
Now,
Yeah.
oh, okay,
So that one does.
yes.
Cool. I'll go first.
Go ahead, George.
Come on down.
I'll buy you.
Oh.
Hello, my name's George Anderson. I'm the president and co-founder of Gimme Love Animal Shelter. And I'm glad that we're having this workshop. I just want to talk about the shelter and animal control. I know it's been a big push for Mr. Atkinson, and we are certainly on board with it. We look forward to working with an animal control officer. I think that there's a lot of misconception of animal control. I think if people have in mind, or their thought is an animal control officer is going to go out and pick up every single dog they see and bring it somewhere and drop it off, I think reality needs to set in, because that's probably not going to happen. An animal control officer in our situation, with our mission statement and our bylaws and what we believe, is what we've been doing on an everyday basis. So we're in our truck pretty much every day, going up and down some of the streets, trying to educate as much as we can, picking up stray dogs when we can. I think, again, education is the main thing that we need to look for. Personally, I think a full-time animal control officer would be a little overkill, but I think having somebody 4 hours a day that is knocking on doors and actually writing citations is the key to success in the city of Coalinga. We go and we have hung, we have 4 stacks of warnings that we've hung on doors every day, week by week, month by month, year by year, and they keep stacking up. And we haven't had any success with those people obeying what that warning is, which the only thing we can do is give them another warning, right? Because we can't write the citation. I understand that the police department is way too busy to go out and write citations that need to be written for everybody. And we tried to collaborate with, the code enforcement that was going to start writing some citations, but that never came to fruition. We kept asking about it, but it never happened. So I think ideally, when people are held responsible and accountable for letting their animals run loose and expecting them to come back in the evening, I think when they start paying fines and they're held responsible for that and accountable for that, I think it's going to change a whole lot in the city of Coalinga. I really do. We're pushing, and we have pushed the spay-neuter program since the beginning, and she has been able to obtain grants for the community that are being able to get their dogs, cats spayed, neutered for free on us, so on the grant. That's actively, I think we've made 2 trips on the new grant that we have, one today as a matter of fact. So that's happening, and people are taking advantage of it. Also just want to present the fact of stray dogs that are hungry, injured, obviously starving. We always go the extra mile, 110%. We've shown up at 10 o'clock at night, midnight, a few times to make sure that those animals are taken care of, and we find a way. We'll find a way. But a healthy, live dog running around happy as can be in your neighborhood is not the worst thing in the world, because 90% of the time, and that's a big number, but statistics show that 90% of the time he probably lives around the corner and he's going home. We have a story of a yellow lab running around the city of Coalinga for quite a while now that we can't catch. And you go out at 8 o'clock at night and check every street, and he's not there. He's at home. He's eating food, and he's happy, and he's drinking water, and at 8 o'clock in the morning, he's out, and he's going to the schools, and he's doing his thing. And unfortunately, that happens quite a bit. Unfortunately, it happens quite a bit. We have to hold those people accountable. Tonight, on the way here, in a neighborhood, we saw somebody open the door and let their 3 dogs out, and they went back in. And we just looked at each other and said, wow, that's why we're going to this meeting tonight. I think we've put a warning on that door before. But it happens quite a bit. It happens more than what people realize. And I think taking a step back and looking at animal control is going to be wonderful for this community, because we can finally get those citations out there and we can finally hold people accountable. I don't know if their water bill or something is affected, but if it's not, it should be, because we should hold them accountable and make them pay those fines. And after that first warning, when it happens again and again and again, because the 6 or 7 same animals that we get calls on every day, and we respond to, I don't know, 57 to 60 calls a week that we're responding to. And the police department has been wonderful in assisting us with aggressive or vicious. We don't have a whole lot of those, but when we do, we take care of those. We get them in as fast as we can, we get them out. So Gimme Love is a nonprofit, and our mission statement is we do not kill animals to make room for others. We just don't. Animal control in other cities, and I believe that in the past, it's happened in the city of Coalinga. And I apologize, sometimes I have a way of offending people, and I don't mean to do that. I just want to be really transparent. Because I think the city of Coalinga had animal control. And they were picking up and doing exactly what the citizens wanted them to do. They were going out and picking up every single animal they had, and they were killing animals at an unbelievable rate. Unbelievable rate. As a matter of fact, so unbelievable that I think the state took notice. And the state has put on notice many communities that are doing the same thing now. And as I mentioned in the past, I go to a lot of these meetings, and legislature and there's bills going into effect that are going to make California a no-kill state at some point. Veterinarians will be the only ones that will be able to make that decision. And it's happening sooner than we believe it is. Just a year ago at some of the meetings, it was, in 20 years, California will be a no-kill. Then it went to 10 years, and now it's up to people saying 3 years. And hopefully it does. Because people need to be held accountable, and I just want people to understand that we are absolutely 100% on the side of animal control. We're absolutely 100% on the education of the community, understanding what to do when there's a stray animal out there. Does it look happy? Does it look fed? Is it in dire need? That's the ones we want to focus on. And then the others, we want to make sure that they're not just being dropped off here. And if we find that that is the possibility and investigation, then we'll take care of those animals as well. But we need to find the homes of the people who know their animals are out there running around. And I'm not saying that everybody does that, so I don't want anybody to take offense to that. But the fact of the matter is, there's dogs running around. We go after them. We look for them. We just spent a week, just to give you an idea, of some people who went on vacation to Mexico, and their 2 dogs were getting out every single day. And we went and we repaired their fence at 8 o'clock at night, and it didn't keep them in. And they were still chasing people. Yeah. They were still getting out and barking and chasing people. So we went, we're knocking on doors. Does anybody know who these people are? Can somebody get a hold of them? Something's got to happen. So after about 2 weeks, I think, Sherry and Kay chased the dogs quite a bit as well. So we went over and I bombarded all kinds of stuff up on their fence so they couldn't climb it, and they're escape artists and they kept finding a way, and it was happening every single day. And those people should be paying a fine. Those people should be held accountable. And it's not just those people. There's a group of people, and we have addresses, plenty of addresses, where we know the dogs belong and where they go, and they've had plenty of warnings. So it's time. It's time. And I'm glad the council has taken the step forward. And Mr. Atkinson, I appreciate your push for it. Mr. Vosberg came and visited last week. I mean, you were dead on with your ideas and your thoughts of animal control. And we want you guys to know that we're with you. I do believe that a full-time officer is a little bit of overkill, because I don't think there's that many that are going to keep an animal control officer busy. You can give me 100 kennels in a week, they'll be full. And we'll be sitting here talking about the exact same thing. So it's education. We've got to get out and educate. We've got to get every single person to bring their animal down to be spayed and neutered. That's all I got. Thank you.
I got a quick question for the chief on that item. Is there a way, after 1 or 2 warnings for them, is there a way that they can place a citizen's arrest, have an officer come out there and ticket them, and then them sign it?
I believe it's an infraction, not a misdemeanor. Am I correct, Sean?
So there's still not really a way to get them fined until we get that position filled in? Okay.
I had a question real quick. You brought up something about having them be held accountable with their water bill, probably AKA the city bill, right? Is that a possibility that we can attach things to the city bill?
It is not. You cannot attach fines for non-related utilities to a utility bill in California.
Can we attach it to a separate portion of the city bill?
No, the fines get sent out on a citation, and that's the mechanism for notifying them. So we would have to create like a new city bill, but it would basically it wouldn't be a utility bill. It would basically be us just duplicating a bill in addition to the citation.
Just a quick question. So if that's an infraction and they don't pay a fine, can that become a misdemeanor?
I don't think so. It's an infraction, period.
So if a person decides to take the bill and throw it in the trash can, they've got no repercussion?
It just gets sent to collections.
Yeah,
Okay. So they just gotta fight the bill collector.
they won't pay, right.
And one of the issues is, I know you had mentioned code enforcement, and so we try when we can. I think what we talked about last time was the dogs on Lincoln. And there's a section in the property maintenance portion of the city's municipal code that says that if you have animals, they have to be kept behind a fence. You can't just have them loose in your front yard or running down the street. The problem is that the code enforcement officer will see the dogs in someone's yard. She has to see them. And so then she'll send a violation notice to that address. And then the person calls and says, you sent me a violation notice, those aren't my dogs. And then they'll say, I've seen them at this house. So then she keeps driving down Lincoln, she sees them at the other house, she sends a letter there, and that person calls and says, those aren't my dogs. And so it's very difficult because if she tries to do it on the code enforcement side, code enforcement violations have to go to the property owner. They can't go to the dog owner who may be renting. They have to go to the property owner. And she has to confirm that that's where the dogs reside and that the owner of that property did not properly keep them enclosed.
I understand. So,
And she did reach out to us, he just wasn't, he was
you
not
gotta be,
there.
you gotta be at the mic.
I can hear me just fine.
Sorry. So with animal control,
Right.
they'll obviously be PC 832 to where they can write the citations.
Correct.
So if a citation is written and it's not, they don't act on it, will they receive another citation with a higher fine,
They could receive another citation for the same violation. The
Okay.
dogs continue to be loose.
continue to be loose? And do we know what that, because I don't know, but do we know what that max is? Like, can they receive three fines, 10 fines?
I'm not sure if.
They can, I don't know the dollar amount for the fines. I know that we changed it not too long ago. And I believe that at the time, the council asked the city attorney what the maximum was, and that's what it was increased to. But they can receive a citation and a fine every time that dog is out. And every time that the dog is out, it increases. So it's just like with code enforcement, your property violations. So if you have a car parked on your lawn, and we see it, it's a $50 fine. And if we come back the next day and it's still there, it can be a $150 fine, or $100. And it increases, and it's a daily fine. So every time it's seen there, after the third day, you're getting the maximum fine, and it's the same with the dogs. So if the dog continues to be out, they can get fines every time the dog is seen out.
The owner of the animals or the owner of the property?
The animal control officer would be citing the owner of the animal if we know who the owner is. I mean, it would be ideal if they were microchipped so that they could verify who the owner was.
Yes. And just to mention that, we do have free microchips for your animals if you guys want to come down and microchip. Thank you, guys.
I was actually going to ask you if you could, sorry about that.
That's okay.
If you could kind of explain to the public your process of what happens when an animal goes from the being loose and in need to getting to the shelter, and how they actually get to a rescue or get to their owners.
If you don't mind, I will let my wife take that.
Absolutely.
What?
Called your husband chicken.
So I'm Lori Anderson with Gimme Love. Our intake policy is either we pick them up off the streets or someone brings them in. We check them for a microchip. If they do not have one, then if we have a kennel, we do place them in. If not, then those people usually hold the animal for us. And then we wait. We post on our Facebook page and all of the other Facebook pages for Coalinga. Wait for an owner to respond. If they don't respond within 72 hours, they legally become Gimme Loves, and we can then send them out to rescue. If they come in injured, we do not have to wait 72 hours. They can immediately be sent out to rescue if no owner responds. You know, usually they're gone within 24 hours if they're injured. We won't let them suffer. So if they are suffering, then we can have them euthanized. So if we can't find a rescue to take them, which is what we do. Then if an owner responds, they come in, they can pick up the dog. The fees are $15 if the dog is altered. If it isn't, it's $35. The fee increases by $5 per day that we hold the animal. Then California requires that we microchip the animal before it returns home. So we do that. We also offer the free microchips to people so that their animals can be returned to them. And we've had several. It works. It really does. So we always push for that. When they come in for free vaccinations, we always tell them, let's microchip your animal so it can be returned to you. A lot of them do that. On the grant for the spay-neuter, it is required if they go in under our grant that they are microchipped. So all of those dogs that are getting spay and neuter are microchipped also, along with rabies. And that's pretty much the process for that. We reach out to rescues nonstop. We post the animals up for adoption nonstop until they move out. Right now, because of the number of animals, it's very hard to move large dogs. Small dogs, cats, that moves pretty quickly, but not large dogs. With COVID, not having a vet for 3 years, and now we're on the 4th year, and you still can't hardly get into a vet to get your animal spay or neutered, and the population is just out of control. We've posted several times the graph that shows how many animals, how it multiplies. There are millions of animals everywhere. It's not just Coalinga, it's everywhere. You can go on anybody's Facebook page, you can go on Google and research. Every shelter, every rescue is overran with animals right now. There is just no place for all these animals. So it's very hard to move them right now. But we try. We have a program that we would like to start. It's called For Pity's Sake. We want to, it's in the memory of a pit that was hit by a car. So what we want to do is we want it to be like a neighborhood watch program. We have stickers for their windows, the same like you get for your neighborhood watch. And that way everyone can be aware of what animals are in their neighborhood, if they're being abused, if they're being neglected, but mainly to know where those animals belong. So if a neighbor opens their door and they let their dogs out every day, call your neighborhood watch for these animals. Watch what's going on in your neighborhood with them. Report those people. So when we have a animal control officer that can do that, we would like to really push that, that people are aware of what's going on in their neighborhoods. We also have a program we want to start that Fresno Humane uses. It's called a 48-hour program. And it's where if a Good Samaritan finds a dog and they take it in, you are responsible for that dog if you pick it up. And you, for 48 hours, you hold it yourself. You post on all the apps you can find, all the Facebook pages you can find. You can do flyers, whatever you have to do to try to find the owner of that animal, because chances are it's from your area. And we will supply, we already do this, we supply the food or anything else they need to hold that animal until the owner is found. Unfortunately, with all of the population that we have of cats and dogs right now, a lot of the animals are not claimed. I believe that the last year in 2022, I think we returned 14 animals to owners, that the other 700 and some odd dogs were sent out to rescue. There are 6, I don't have the paperwork right in front of me, but I believe it was 600 and something that was sent out to transfer to rescues because no one claims the animals. But I'm telling you, COVID and the overpopulation, there's There's just no place for them. And I mean, what are people supposed to do with all these animals? You know, people are contacting us and they've got puppies that are a year old, and then they've got more puppies now that are 8 weeks old, and you know, they're up to 20 animals at their house. And there's just nowhere to put them. But along, you know, that's one excuse for them, but there's no excuse for dropping the animal somewhere out in the oil fields. There's no excuse for that at all. You know, it's your responsibility to take care of it. Reach out to us for help. But I do believe that they've taken advantage of no animal control officer, and that they do just open their doors and let them run the town. And it's time for that to stop. We're tired of picking them up off of the road after they're hit. It's not a good thing. So we would appreciate if everyone would keep their animals contained.
Can you tell us, since you have free microchips, what should the public do if they want to get their animal microchipped?
They just have to reach out to us on Facebook. They can stop by the office at any time. We post it nonstop, free microchips, vaccinations. So yeah, and they really do come in, a lot of them. We've probably microchipped 1,200, 1,500 animals. At least. Through the vets, through the spay-neuter programs, and just people walking in to have it done. So they are using that. Microchips have a downfall though. People can not update their info, and we no longer can contact them. But you know, we don't push it. It's not used. Microchips are to make sure your animal's brought home safely. That's all. That's microchips. It's just to make sure your animals return home.
So what is your current capacity for dogs and cats at the shelter? And what would maybe this is a two-part question, the current capacity, and then what would the capacity be with the new shelter?
We have 8 large dog kennels, but right now we have 11 large dogs. The kennels are 5 by 5. You cannot put 2 dogs in there, 2 big dogs. There's no way. But we did invest in some bigger kennels that we set up, a couple of them. That way we could, 2 dogs came in together. We keep those two dogs together. If, you know, one's spayed or neutered, female, male thing, we have to watch that too. Small dogs, the capacities, we have 6 small dog kennels. They can hold 2 to 3 dogs each. Which they are full right now. Cats, we had kennels set up everywhere, but it was very hard for the fire department to get through. So we took those kennels down, and the cats are pretty much free roaming. We have 6 kennels for them, and the rest roam free. We have probably 40 something cats in shelter, and probably that many in foster. And we have, I believe, 14 large dogs in foster right now. So yeah, the number's outrageous. We just would like everyone to remember that, you know, we can only take care of so many. It's not just the squeezing them in there, but you know, there's the funding on feeding them and all that too. So we would say that's definitely our limit right now that we're at.
And maybe Marissa could answer the capacity of the new.
Yes, so at the new shelter, it should open the end of June. What did I tell you guys? June 27th, I think is the day that it's predicted to be done. And that has 27 large dog kennels, 6 small dog kennels, and then the room for sick and injured is, I think, 4 or 6. And at the new shelter, it's going to be, for anyone who's familiar with the old shelter that was out at Claremont Custody Center, their kennels were indoor-outdoor kennels. So at the new shelter, one side is up against the alley, so we can't cut into that wall. But the other side, where it's like the exterior yard, those will have inside-outside kennels. So they'll be able to be both inside and outside if they're housed on this side, and then in the interior, they're just inside kennels.
And has the city been working with Gimme Love on the diagrams of the new shelter? And have we taken input from them and other community partners on, because I remember last time we did the shelter, it started off with people saying it was going to be a great thing, at this place over here. And then I'd say 3 months into it, all the volunteers came to me and said, hey, this is horrible. If we would have known this was going to be the case, we would have never wanted this. And I remember that and it happened for like 6 months straight, people complaining and saying how horrible of a situation it was, and they wish they would have been involved ahead of time. And so I'm just hoping that we have our community partners involved ahead of time, and I'm wondering how much work back and forth has went into that.
So I did share the plans from the engineer with Lori and George, but they were like completed plans when they saw them. However, the plans were developed based on the recommendations from the vet from UC Davis that they connected us with. And they helped us get that grant from, what is it called?
Is it the cow animal one?
It's the something for all animals.
I believe
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, I believe it's cow animals, but I'm not, yeah.
So they gave us a $100,000 grant to help with the new shelter. And so the specifications are based on what they recommended and what that vet said would be the kennel sizes needed, the ground covering, and all of that information.
So when I thought about this meeting, about having a workshop, kind of made me rehash over what had happened in 2016. And I believe some of the people that were here now were also at that meeting when we brought the SPCA in. I know Heather was. I watched her on film. And yes, there was, what was that? Oh, yeah. So it was quite an interesting time to listen to the SPCA lawyer speak about all the different things in Coalinga. And I kind of hashed over some things, and I was going to say them, but, you know, George hit the nail on the head on every single thing. They get it. I think our public may want more than we can handle. And I think that's what's important here, is that we set expectations for quality of care and capacity to care. I read, it was a 51-minute meeting with this lady that came in, and she was really good at what she does. And I will spare you the time of having to hash back over that. I did send that out to a couple people. But from what I understand, Coalinga is doing a great job with animal control, thanks to Gimme Love. And one of the first things that they said back then was that we needed to partner with the 501c3 so that we could have access to a lot of these things that you guys have brought in. And I had a giant list of things, but after visiting, I understood that you guys were doing almost everything that was on the list. You know, the care, the tracking, the type of things like that. And that's kind of why I asked you to talk to people, you know, about what your process was. And, you know, the idea, I think, was to bring some of the public in and say, hey, what does the public think is the shortfalls coming from animal control, coming from, you know, the shelter side as well. And the reason I put up to have full-time animal control was because I hear the complaints of the citizens saying that when there's a vicious dog out there, that there's nobody to take care of them. And so that was the deal, was, hey, let's provide a period of time through the day to where people know that if there's a vicious animal out there, that they can call in, kind of try and triage that scenario. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not, just listening to the public, understanding that public are scared when there's vicious animals out there and they don't have anyone to turn to in certain situations, not taking away from anyone that's here. I think everyone's doing a great job. But I think the biggest thing that I understand that you said, which is what the lady from the SPCA said, which she really pounded this home. She said it's the most important thing for the public to understand is that we cannot shelter every animal that's out there. And, you know, at the time, I had stated that we had a Facebook group that was allowing people to post this stuff. And, yeah, it's funny, because on that group, I just a couple months ago said, hey, you know, we really want to reiterate that we have a Coalinga Pets group for that, and I got a huge backlash from the public. So I want to announce that we've talked to the admins of that group, and they are absolutely going to allow people to start posting lost pets and stray pets in that group again, because of, I think, how much of an impact that it did make. And some people will be unhappy about that because not everyone wants to see the constant posting of pets. But the idea was not to hide that. It was just to have a group that was specific towards something. But since so many people want that, and since we have an idea now where not every pet can be sheltered, the idea is to get them back to their owners. And listening to the amount of ownership that got turned in 2022, it seems like we might need some help with that. And my question actually is, what can the city do to help? Sorry for the long-winded spiel.
I got one.
Well, honestly, the community here has been amazing. They're amazing. The police department has been amazing. I know everyone wants to gripe and complain, but let me tell you, PD officers didn't come in wanting to be your animal control officer. This was something that the city decided to try along with Gimme Love, and we all tried it, and it had some spots that failed, maybe with the citations and people still letting their animals run, but you cannot blame that on the PD, and you can't blame it on Gimme Love. That needs to be put back on the owners. It's not the shelter's fault, it's not the PD's fault, and it's not your city's fault. This is owner's responsibility. And I get tired of hearing everybody say how it's our fault or the PD's fault or the city's fault. It's not. It is not our fault. That's why I want the town to be aware of what animals are around and these owners that own them. I don't care if you have to get pictures from your sidewalk showing that they live there. I know you can't go over their fence and take a picture, but whatever you have to do to prove that animal lives there, because this is ridiculous the way this all gets pushed off on everybody else but the person that's responsible. It's crazy. The city's been amazing. Anytime we call with anything, they jump right on it. The code enforcement, she just now started helping us a lot. I mean, she's contacted me, we've contacted her, there's been no issues. So other than really just educating the public and letting them know that they can foster. You find an animal, foster it until we can move it. Foster it until we can find help or the owner steps up. That's what we need. We need a lot of fosters. You know, if it's really an animal in need, then help it. It takes the whole community to make it work. It can't just be 12 people at the shelter. It's gonna take everybody. So if they really want to take care of this animal problem here, everybody needs to step up. Spay and neuter your pets. You know, step up and help by fostering. That's what we really, really need. I can't. There's just no place for all of them to go. There is no place. Lonnie?
So I mean, I grew up here, and when I was younger, there was always stuff on the weekends or a couple times a year where the city would sponsor registering your pet's license. But it was the city involvement. And if we're partnered with Gimme Love, can we start doing something like that again in conjunction with animal control to get more people involved? Not everybody has Facebook. You guys gotta realize that
Yes,
the
we
world does not revolve around Facebook. This needs to be on the city too, on the city's website, and there needs to be the information there. We gotta quit revolving around Facebook and give people that don't. It's a lot of older people. I mean, I'm not a spring chicken, but I'm not too old, but I don't Facebook, so I don't see any of this stuff on there. I get told about it by friends and coworkers and family, but I don't do it. So if it's on the city website and then the city starts sponsoring registration drives and use the free microchips and the vaccinations, because I remember lines of people to get their animals vaccinated, chipped or tagged. If we could do something like that, it might help with more community involvement along with the animal control.
So
And-
to answer your question, so we've had free vaccination clinics, and we've had great turnouts. It's been free to the community, and then we've invited the city over to sell the licenses. The problem is, the vaccinations were free. I think we had 4 people buy the tags. So that number is really, really low. So maybe just more education of that. That dog tag is just as important as a chip too, you know.
Right, and that's why I was saying if we get the city to sponsor it and say it's going through them, even though it's through you.
Yeah.
Maybe we can get more people. And it's all word of mouth, you know, once you get people doing it because they want to help, and get more community involvement is what we gotta get, along with the city helping with animal control.
Yeah, I know at some of the city events that we've done in the last year, 2 years, we've actually had it, the microchipping and vaccinations at some of the city events. So maybe we do it at each one if it's possible, and maybe one in between. you
Well,
know,
we
if
could
need-
even do like a day, like Mondays, or pick a day, and if you go into Gimme Love, we can have office hours with the animal control officer to do free dog registrations. But one thing I wanted to touch on, just so the public knows, is we do have a mechanism in place right now if there is a vicious dog. It's not that they don't have anyone to call, you just need to call PD dispatch. The issue is that a lot of people don't understand the definition of a vicious dog. There are certain dog breeds that are more intimidating than others to people, and that doesn't mean that it's a vicious dog. And so if it is a truly vicious dog and you call into PD dispatch, they are going to send an officer. Now, all of their calls are prioritized, so if there's a major crime going on, they may not respond right away, but they are always going to respond.
And they have faithfully, they really have. There's been no problem with that. I think the three things that we could use at the animal shelter is maybe a phone line over there so that, the calls aren't always sent to PD, but they're sent to us. I think, cause we don't have a phone line there. Our only phone line is at our house and it's a message phone. So we could use that. I think we could use, internet. We're trying to get on the PD internet. We don't have the password, so we can't even like log in our own computers. So that's been a problem. There was one more thing. And I think we need to educate the public on the animals that are really in need and not just dogs out running. You know, they need to know when a dog's really in need. I mean, we've had 3 skinny, starving dogs in the 3.5 years that we've been here. So dogs out on the street are not starving. You know, we've had 3 of them out of 3,300 animals. You know, so yeah, so yes. So that's something else we need to do. We need to educate the public on a dog that's really in need. One that really needs to be brought into the shelter.
So I have a question for Marissa. This item is a discussion item, right? Is that discussion and action?
It's not, it's just discussion.
Oh, discussion, okay. So I think, I'm taking some notes here. Phone line, internet,
I already have that taken care of in the new shelter, and it doesn't require council action.
okay. And then educate the public. I would like, and this, I know this isn't an action item, so I'm just merely saying it. I would like, I agree with Councilman Hedgecock that not everyone is on Facebook, and I would like to see a space on the city's website dedicated for animal control, and maybe to educate the public on the things that Lori's been talking about, because I hear this every single day, that people want all the animals to be sheltered, and I want them to be sheltered too, but we just don't have the capacity to do that. And so if we could educate the public on some of the things that you were saying of what is a vicious animal, and then on your side, what is a hungry animal, maybe we could change some of this with education. If we put it on the website, then it's not just Facebook, and that we can gather more people, because I agree. I think we do have a lot of people that don't check Facebook at all, and some that just don't like it, period, and won't use it. And so, and I wouldn't want everyone to be forced into that for a government, to respond. And so that's just my comment.
We need a place where we can just take posters like of animals that come in. That way we can post them somewhere where people can go. Well, they'll know to go look. They don't have Facebook, then they can go look. Where's that box at you were talking about? Frame Park. Frame Park? Yeah. We've asked for the key to that. We haven't got that yet, but we're moving on that. But we want a place where we can put the posters and stuff, so that way people who aren't on Facebook can know to go there and see if we have their dog, how to contact us, make it a little easier out to the public.
Can we do a lost billboard right by where they pay their city bill? Is there room enough to put up? You couldn't have them all up there, but if at least the newest animals, you know, and maybe on a,
We could, but I mean, it would be my recommendation if you want to do that, because they would be sending it over to us, for us to know. I would rather the city pay to purchase some sort of kiosk to be on the Gimme Love site. And so maybe we wait until the new shelter's there, and so they just have to walk out of the office and put it in there, and people can see what's there. And so that way they know they can go to the shelter. If it's after hours, they can still look in this kiosk to see if their dog or cat is in there.
that'd work.
Okay. Well, one, I think the city council should pass an ordinance saying everybody should be on Facebook. No. Couple of questions. These microchips, are those GPS as well, or just give up the name when they come in?
It's, you scan it and it has a number. We put the number into a system, a database,
And it
and
gives
it
it.
pulls up the owners.
So there's no way an animal controller sees an animal out on the street can chip them with something, GPS to follow them home so you know their residents.
They have collars for that
Yeah.
that they've made, but
But-
those, you
okay.
know, somebody's dog got stolen, the collar was cut off, and they followed the collar and never found the dog. So
Other
those,
thing.
you know,
Yeah, with the citations, can it be 3 citations and you lose your animal? If they're not gonna pay for it, they're obviously not a good pet owner, maybe they shouldn't be a pet owner. Is that
Nope.
something that can be done?
To answer that, so we've had the majority of the people who come in to get their dog, we tell them there's a $15 fee, and they turn out and walk out and say, keep it.
Wow.
So, you know, it's a huge problem. So taking their dog might be their blessing, I think.
and it's a legal issue because dogs are considered property. So it's not like you can just go up and take somebody's dog.
No, but if they owe you money, you can repossess it.
If it's in the shelter, yes. But just out on the street, it has a fine on it because you've seen it running, then no, you'd have to. There's a lot of legal issues with dogs being property.
And when you pick them up with your grant, are you allowed to force that they be spayed or neutered and chipped, or only after the 72 hours?
Chipped, yes, because California law says any animal that comes in the shelter and leaves has to be chipped.
But not the
So,
spayed or neutered?
Not the spay or neutered, but we do push that when their dogs are in there, let me tell you.
Yeah, because that's the other issue.
And
So
they're right
many
there
out
like a
running
bulldog.
that aren't spayed or neutered, they're out there making more
Multiplying.
non-spayed or neutered. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Now, quick question, do you have, besides the scanner, is there a radar one that they can do for the dogs that they can't catch? To be able to, if they're sitting at an address and they run off, is there another way to be able to actually read that number?
No.
Only
you
with
have
the
to
scanner,
scan
huh?
it. Yeah.
So I just want to say that there's a whole network of people that aren't here tonight that put a lot of effort and footwork into getting these animals off the street, taking them into their own homes, networking with other people to try to find their owner, if not find them a foster. Myself and 4 or 5 other people down my street are known to pull a lot of animals out of that oil field, let me tell you. So that being said, I wanted to touch on real quick the website. So a long time ago, before all y'all were here, the city's website had a link to the animal shelter with pictures of the animals that were up for adoption or were in the kennels or whatever. And so that's an idea that maybe you guys could put on the city's website, a link to Gimme Love. The other thing I wanted to say is that in 2016, 17, I don't remember exactly when, there was a lot of talk and effort put in by city council and most of the people you see sitting here about coming up with some ordinances for this animal issue. And the one thing we haven't talked about tonight is breeding. We have got 8 years of information that we have stored on people who are breeding here in town. They don't know we have it, but we have it. And once an oops, I get it, twice maybe an oops, 3 times they're breeding. And I know that we came up with a solution to make breeders register, and I think it's time that we start making them register. I don't remember exactly what the amounts were, but
I mean, they're posting, they're all over Kalinga Citizens, they're all over Kalinga Pets, Chihuahua puppies, 6 weeks old. Well, there is a law that says that you cannot rehome a puppy until it's 8 weeks old. And they're like trying to get rid of them at 6 weeks. They're not even ready to leave their mother yet. And we have a lot of breeders here in town, a lot, more than you would ever even think. And so I think that we need to bring the information to you guys, or whoever's gonna be in control of making these people come and register, and let's get the ball rolling. Because if we can stop or at least curb all this breeding, then maybe we won't have so many running the streets. That's all I wanted to say.
So I was looking into the 2016 meeting, because 2016, 17, you're right, we had a lot of discussion about this, trying to figure this out. And we had worked on a lot of different ordinances, and one of the things that the lady from the SBCA said was that Kalinga was overabundant in ordinance, and that our ordinances were long-winded. She said they were very long. She said, so we do have, and so I asked her, not at the meeting, but I did ask her on the side. I said, hey, like, what do you think about, well, actually, you know what? I did ask her at the meeting about mandatory spay-neuter, because that was something that people always bring up. She said they completely disagree on that. She said they don't think it's a good idea. She said because she had all kinds of different reasons. She said San Francisco, where she's from, has that policy. She said, but she said it doesn't work well. She said it doesn't get people to be open and honest with their pets. A lot of people don't have the money to spay neuter. She went on and on about some different things. You might have to watch the video to see all the different things. But my question was not actually about that. It's what do you guys think about the spay neuter thing, and whether, because you're talking about breeding. So basically, if someone's continuously breeding, versus someone that, hey, they haven't been breeding but they had animals. How do you separate those two things out for someone that's going to say, hey, I'm a breeder, compared to someone who's just going to have, animals that have animals, but they're not going to admit that they're a breeder? And how does that classification go?
Well, I think that the people who are, can you hear me? Am I okay right here? The people who are ethically breeding, will come willingly and say, I'm a breeder, what do I need to do? But you're gonna find those people if you just look on Facebook, and they're repeat breeders. And then, like, we find them, we screenshot everything, and we save the information. And so we have, like, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. I think that that's how you differentiate between the people who are doing it legit and those who are just, it's not an oops anymore. It's not my dog got out and got pregnant, what do I do? It's not that anymore. It's complete neglect.
And so then would you suggest that you have rules and ordinances for people that are breeders? Because, see, the point I'm getting at here is that the people that aren't going to follow the rules aren't going to follow the law either. But then the people that follow the rules, if we ordinance them to death, the only people they're going to start, the people that want to break the law are going to continue to break the law. And I'm not saying it's a good or bad idea. I'm just trying to figure out what the public thinks would be a good idea in this matter. Like, how would you do it? Would you create an ordinance around it to say, hey, if you're breeding, you can only have this many litters per year, and if you're having more than that, then you're in trouble, and then of course it would go back to an unenforceable fine. So how do we, I'm listening, and I want to understand it, and I want to take that in, but I don't understand how it would make a difference. That's what I'm looking for, is like, how would it change anything that's going on? I understand the point, and I understand the idea behind it, but if people aren't going to follow the law, and it's only going to give them a ticket that they aren't going to pay anyways, I'm just wondering how that actually works in reality.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're a breeder and a legit breeder, don't you have to be licensed?
Yes,
Yeah, you also have to have a city business license.
yes.
Yeah, so I think, she's got a good line on people who are overabundant with pups every 6 months. I think you just contact them and ask them for a license.
So part of the problem is, and it's similar to the calls that we get about people selling food from their kitchen on Facebook. People do it. It's not legal. The only in California, you can get a cottage kitchen license from the county health department to sell baked goods. That's it. You can't sell enchiladas or tamales or any other food that you make in your kitchen. It's not legal in California. And people will call in that people are posting on Facebook selling it, but they're not posting their address because they know that they can't be selling it. And it's similar with the puppies. It's like, I have these dogs for sale, send me a private message for details. And so it's hard as a city to take any enforcement action because we don't know what their address is. And if we did know what their address is, all we are able to do is send a violation notice and a fine and a citation to that address.
It's pretty tough.
We'll never stop that. I don't believe we will. So I think you have to just go with what you can do, and that's spay and neuter. These people in this town, they want spay or neuter. They do. They call us. In 5 months, we did 327 animals last time. So now we have a grant for 500. Our list is already crazy.
7 pages of just dogs.
So it's not that people don't want it, it's that it's not available. There's nothing here in this town. You have to go many miles to get there. You have to spend all day, or you have to make a second trip back to pick up the animal. People can't afford to take time off of work for all that either. And then you're looking at $525 to spay one little dog. You know, it's crazy. So I think one of the biggest things that we can all do is get a grant writer. You guys got to have a grant writer somewhere. And they need to start writing grants for the shelter, for the city, for spay-neuter. Because I'm telling you, you could spay-neuter almost all these animals around here. There'd be very few that wouldn't want it. They are desperate for it. But it's hard to get a vet. We got one in Morro Bay that worked with us to do this grant, and they did it one time. They did 12 animals, and they said, oh no, we can't do it. And we were like, oh my God, here we have an $80,000 grant and we can't get a vet. So finally we found another one. Thank God for Mead Canine Rescue. They found us another vet in Paso, and they did it for us today, and they did 10 dogs. And next week they're gonna do 15, and the following week they'll even do more. So that's what they need. That's what they want. That's what they need help with. And I think that's what we are gonna have to do, is we're just going to have to push spay and neuter. And really, it doesn't take a lot of pushing. These people want spay neuter.
They just can't afford it.
But community cats, there's so many community cats in Coalinga. Everybody knows that. You want to stop that? Spay neuter. The grant covers 100 feral cats that we have right now. That won't even touch the community cat problem. That's on one block. So
How are you
if
getting the cats?
that's what we need.
Are we trapping the cats, or how are you getting a hold of these feral cats?
For the feral cats, people have contacted us and they've said, hey, I've got 6 feral cats running my property right now, and I want to get them fixed before they start making babies this season. So we're like, okay, give us your name. You know, we have traps. We'll help you. They'll trap the cats when we give them the date, the night of, and then we'll take those cats in.
No.
But
On average, what are you guys spending for a cat to get spayed or neutered?
okay, if we do it through our vet, which is Valley Oak, but it's very hard to get in there because they work with so many shelters. So we had a horrible time. That's why we didn't use them for our grant, because they could only give us 5 places a month. Well, that's 60 animals, and we have a grant for 500, so that wasn't gonna work. But we love them, we appreciate them. But for a cat, female spay, I believe is 60. I believe a neuter for a cat is 30. A small dog spay is $150, and this is shelter pricing I'm giving you. This isn't community. A male dog, I believe, is 120 or something like that, a small one. And the prices just go up by poundage. So, I mean, we literally took one to a vet in Fresno, one of our dogs at the shelter, so we could get it adopted. She was a big dog, $525 later, which would have cost us about $220 for our shelter pricing through Valley Oak. But people can't afford that. So if you really want to help the community and get the number of animals down, we all got to push for grants and spay neuter.
Okay, so even if we get grants like you're asking, or you're saying, where are we gonna take them to get spay and neutered?
Well, hopefully the Paso vet will continue to work with us.
And how
So
many,
far, so good.
how many are they doing?
They're gonna do the 500 animals for us.
Over how?
They're doing it weekly. We're taking about 10, well, we started with 10. They said we could go up 15 to 20 animals per week. It depends
So-
on the size and it depends if they're female. The females take longer and larger dogs take longer.
Over an 8 to 10 month period.
So we figure we can have that knocked out, yeah, probably within 8 months with them.
So if we had a grant to follow that, is what I think the point she's trying to make. But we can't, she's writing grants day in and day out, and you're lucky if you get one out of 25, 30. And you only have windows when you can get those grants in. So if we had other people that were
Watch.
grant writers watching for openings, popping them in there, if we had one grant backing up another grant, we could continue to roll.
So for the 500, sorry, I keep going back to this. For the 500, how much are we spending for like total? You say you got
80,000.
$80,000.
80.
80,000.
80,000 to do 500 animals at shelter pricing. Yes. Crazy. Isn't that crazy?
That's nuts.
But that includes a rabies vaccination and a pain med. And then we have a grant from Fresno Humane for the microchips. So we supplied the microchips for this program.
You know, everything you're saying is, I mean, just right on the money with what I'm hearing. I've done some research in other cities too, and I remember the lady that came here. She said that she contacted every vet within 45 miles and offered to pay them on SBCA's dime. She couldn't find anyone willing to do
You
it.
can't.
You can't.
So I know a lot of people are unhappy that Kalinga doesn't have a vet that's willing to do this type of thing. But from what I understand, it's very hard everywhere in California to find a vet that's willing to focus on this type of thing. And I know this in the past, the city's offered incentives even for vets to come here. And what we gave them a free rent in a building, and it still wasn't worth it to them to come here, from what I understand. And they
COVID's
lasted,
made it worse.
yeah, they lasted maybe a year or two, and then they were gone. And we're just really in a bad position. I appreciate that you guys are here to help. I think you're exactly right. We have an owner issue where owners are letting their animals out and doing that type of thing. And one thing I constantly hear, maybe I should jump off of Facebook so I don't hear this all the time, but it is a valid concern. And what I wanted to address is that a lot of people are, when we say, hey, we don't want to pick up every animal because there's nowhere to house them, the idea on that is that animals getting hit by cars. And so how do we address that at the same time?
Now, Nathan, I don't know what the PD has picked up dead animal wise. I believe I said 26, I think. I'm sorry. He has the notes. I didn't pull them up. Yes. 26. Yes, we picked up 26. That's a low number. I figured they do about that amount also. So I'm thinking, when you look at 26 animals that were hit by cars, which is
Horrible.
ridiculous. It shouldn't happen at all because they shouldn't have been out. But okay, so 26 is a low number when you think about how many are euthanized in a shelter each year. I mean, the numbers for that are in the hundreds per month. Not 26 out of a year, let's say maybe 52, but that's a low number considering if those animals were being brought into the shelter and we were euthanizing for space. That number would be outrageous. And those would be healthy animals.
I think the answer to your question, though, is it just goes back to the education, right? So we get that out there. If we have less animals out running around, less likelihood of them being injured or hurt.
Can you tell me the name of the place in Paso?
It's Oak Valley.
Depends on
Oak
who you're
Valley's
gonna
in
give it
Paso?
to.
Yeah.
What's that?
I just said, depends on who you're gonna give that info to.
It's Oak Valley Vet, I believe that, yeah, this was our first appointment with them today and they were awesome. They were really quick.
I might want to add and I'll shut up if anybody else wants to talk, but I want to add just two things. And I'm going to go back a little bit to you talking about the shelter and the new one. Reality, no. We want one built to spec, 5,000 square feet, a garage for our trucks to pull into, space to change the oil in them. I mean, ideally, right? But we take what we can. And if that is set up in the proper way, it could be possibly a better alternative to what we have now, which I can't even believe where we started in there and where we've come. But I also want to add that, I'm gonna bring this up, don't be offended. Monetarily, we didn't do this for money. We did this because my wife was born and raised here, and she saw a need for the animals in this community. We are still $800 to $1,000 out of pocket every single month. And it's killing us. So when we're talking about adding animals, now you got 27 kennels. Monetarily, it isn't gonna work. You start getting more kennels, bigger area. I made the comment of give me 100 kennels, we'll fill it in a month. We would.
Yeah.
But we have to have the money to feed those animals if the donations don't come. Now, when donations come, we try to put those stipends back and keep them for the lean days. But the lean days come quite a bit too, because you know, donations do fall off. It's not every month that Mr. Atkinson's gonna win the competition and bring us pallets and pallets of food. That was awesome. But those days don't happen and the money's gotta be there. So growing, there's some pain, there's some growing pains there, right? Because we have to make sure that the animals are being taken care of properly, and we have those funds to be able to make sure that they're being taken care of properly. Just wanted to add that.
So I'm glad you did, because that was actually one of the main reasons of hosting this meeting, was to find out capacity to care with what the expectations are of the public and what expectations are of the city and what the expectations are of the shelter. Because I know that the citizens and the city, nobody wants to feel like that we're underfunding this scenario, but we also need to be realistic on what we can afford. And so it'd be interesting to find out how much money is the city spending per year total on this, and then creating a budget, working with the animal shelter on making something, understanding what expectations that we could, to say, okay, well, what would that number be? But only the number to be able to hold the amount of capacity, not to be able to put 100 dogs in an area that's only meant for 26.
Right.
Guaranteeing that, hey, we only have 26 animals in here plus whatever, and then we are only funding that scenario because we can't fund anymore because of the expectations of the taxpayer, the expectations of the public and the shelter, and then the amount of volunteers and the amount of absolute funds that we have. Because the city, I believe in the past, recently has been doing pretty well in funds. That might change, things change easily, but I would for sure like to see you guys funded better than you are. And I'm sure almost all of the council and I can't speak for everyone, but I'm pretty sure we don't want to hear that this scenario is unfunded, so if there's a way we can work those numbers and find out, and then bring something back to us and understand what we're working with, like what's your want, what would an idea be, and then have us be able to talk about it and say, okay, well, this is how much money we have towards the situation.
Yeah, no, and the city's been awesome. And when we did this, we broke it down by what the capacity was at the time in the shelter. So I believe that was 8 large dogs, 6 or 7 small dogs, factored in a few cats, and we came up with a monthly monetary. It's worked good so far, and it's working now. We're a little bit over with the animals, and we still are out of pocket. But the fact of the matter is, there's a stipend in July that we get that reimburses us somewhat for what we're out of pocket for the year, not completely, but somewhat. And we're able to manage with that. Now, as we go in and we grow and we get bigger, we'll make those determinations as we go and absolutely come back to the council, and we appreciate the offer to do that.
I'm trying to get you guys some food right now. Hold on.
Okay, I got a quick comment. George, you're very absolutely correct on education. My problem here is this has been out there for how long, and you have, 10 people sitting here? People don't seem to care, or they just aren't willing to put in the effort to get educated. We want suggestions, so this is just throwing a suggestion out. Not everybody's on Facebook. Everybody's on TV. Okay? I grew up here where we had a Channel 4 back in the day where there's a foggy day schedule. First thing in the morning, the TV went on Channel 4. Can Kalinga create a YouTube channel? Because everybody has that on their smart TVs now, to where get Mr. Lucero's audio video classes. Let them put together these commercials for you. Put together lost pets. They can
We have one now.
they can create
We have
videos
one.
and stuff like that, and education about the chipping and the spaying and neutering, and even city events coming up, city workshops, things like that, where people can get on there in the morning while they're getting ready, and flip on the little YouTube on the smart TV and see the latest videos and see what's going on and maybe help educate. They're lazy. Face it, people are lazy these days. They don't want to come out here. They want to email responses. They want to comment on Facebook, but they don't. Do they really want to be educated like they need to be?
Right.
So,
And that is awesome, and I'm glad you said that, because not only do we have a YouTube TV channel now that everybody can go to, but we need to blast that maybe on the downtown. You just put you go to YouTube and put Gimme Love Animal Shelter, and it pops up, so if that was on the marquee,
Got it.
that would be great. And to your point, we could put some of that information on that channel possibly. I think statistics are important. So if you go back, and I said I was gonna shut up, I promise I will. But if you go back statistically, when the city of Kalinga had animal control, we went back historically and looked at what they were sending out to rescues, what was being euthanized, and what was being adopted. And year over year, there was 1 or 2 to 3 animals being adopted. There was 57 to 60 animals going to rescue, and I wouldn't even say the number of dogs being euthanized, but it was pretty horrifying. She came in with a plan that she thought would work for Kalinga. And if you take those numbers and you go 2016, 2017, 2018, then you go 2019, we sent over 900 animals to rescue, just in the city of Kalinga. She just threw a number out there of 3,300 animals in the last 3.5 years that we've had spayed and neuters. Those are all in Kalinga. We're starting to outdo the population of people. That's a huge, huge number, and it's fact. And what we're doing works. And if everybody gets on board and does their part as a community, this is going to be, we're already in the spotlight in California. I share this with Marissa all the time. And I don't know if you guys see it, but Kalinga is talked about as one of the greatest cities now as far as their animal shelter, and they talk about animal control. We haven't really discussed that too much, but they're using the city of Kalinga as an example. They're saying, wow, these 501c3s going in with this idea of not killing animals and educating people is actually working. Look at what they're doing here. And we give them our numbers. And I'm telling you, we're becoming a big part of a big change in California. And the city of Kalinga is the front runner. And we just have to get everybody to buy into it. We get this community to buy into it, we're gonna do amazing things.
You think about how small our shelter is and moving over 3,300 animals in 3.5 years. That's a lot of work. A lot of work. It's called Animal for Causes, the YouTube.
And that's .com, yeah.
Yeah.
He's actually posted, if you go to our Gimme Love Facebook page, he's actually on there too.
Yeah, there's a link on our
Yeah.
page.
So I don't know if this is something that the city wants. I can't speak on their behalf. But we could always do things like during like the pre-roll and like the end roll of like city council meetings, run like ads and stuff, and you could like have that kind of stuff in there. I've always wanted to, I just don't have the time, but if I'm being told to, I have to make time. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
There, you're about to have a lot less time on your
And
hands.
Scott has agreed to help with posting our animals on his at the theater for preview for before the movies. So that's awesome.
Amazing.
Yes, and Vonna here
Thank
has
you.
volunteered to help train the staff on how to walk the dogs so they're not pulling them down the road and how to make them more adoptable so they're not so spastic when people come to meet them. They have some manners. So, you know, we've got ideas and plans in place. It's just finding time to do it all. We've made some huge changes at the shelter. Sherry and Kay over here, oh my Lord, the things they've done to the shelter, putting up a play yard and
gotta come
redoing
from
our bathroom.
A
And
week ago, it's amazingly different.
yes, so it's, you know, and I know we're planning on moving soon, but you know, we have to make this work while we're there now and what's safest for the volunteers and the dogs.
I think poor Lana wanted to speak first, and
It's okay. You guys have, a lot of my questions have been answered in my comments. You guys have spoken for me, but there's just a couple. Go ahead.
We have another citizen that would like to speak real quick too.
absolutely.
Would you like to come up and speak?
I think they covered everything.
Okay.
I was raising my hand as Marissa had said in agreement to what George and Lori were saying and Robin. I was just agreeing.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Right, Lana.
Okay,
Okay.
your turn.
So I'm Vonna, and I'm a citizen and a dog lover. Kind of crazy. I have a question. How many dogs have you guys adopted out?
For
Approximate, no.
2022, I don't have, no, that it's under there on adopted. Sorry, my phone's down
be
that
under
way and my
adoption.
list is on there.
We give the chief our notes on a daily basis.
And you know, we want to apologize too that we don't keep the city and the city council updated on what we do. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen that you guys just don't know, and it's just really, it's time. It's finding time to communicate. So we're hoping that maybe we can send something over monthly to Marissa to let her know what happened, why this didn't happen, and that way everybody's more involved in that. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I can
ahead.
still
I'm
talk.
looking for my
Oh,
adoption
okay. And the reason being is because, you know, a lot of the dogs are long-term in the shelter.
270.
And
No?
like Lori and I had spoken recently, when people come to try and adopt a dog, that they have been kennel bound for a minute or two, and so they're not exhibiting adoptable behaviors. So that's the reason why I am gonna work with them, in regards to that, because I want some dogs to be, adopted out. And I think they're doing a wonderful job. There's a lot of dogs going to rescue and finding good homes through that. And I agree, the number of dogs you guys have pushed out to rescues is amazing. It's amazing, especially with the number of dogs that are still running around with irresponsible owners. And yes, we do need to provide education to the owners. However, there are a lot of people in town who just don't care. You know, they get a dog, they toss the dog out, the dog gets picked up, goes to give me love, goes ahead and finds a rescue for the dog, and then they have another dog.
So you
They're
mean birthday
expendable.
presents and Christmas presents, that's what you're talking about?
Yeah, they're expendable. And you're always gonna have those citizens who find dogs expendable. I'll get one, it doesn't fit, it's too much work, kick it out. And I would love to see some penalties towards those citizens who don't have any disregard for the dog's safety, people's safety, the effort that's put into house and rehome, send to rescue, spay, vaccinate, and things like that. So I know that with a animal control officer, and I agree with you, Nathan, I think it needs to be a full-time officer. I think that there's a lot of things that a full-time officer can do. They can assist with Give Me Love, maybe even taking a load of dogs to the vet to get spayed or neutered. Maybe, you know, taking dogs on vet runs that need to go see the vet. So it could free them up to do the things that they need to do to get the dogs out for rescue. I think it's a team effort amongst everybody, citizens included, to make this a successful program down the road, more successful than what it is right now. And provide the tools that we need to resolve this problem. And I say we because it's everybody's problem.
Yes.
And, you know, I'm working on helping open up a new dog program at the prison, which is for shelter and rescue dogs. So we're in the process of doing that right now at Pleasant Valley, where we will be pulling dogs from not only Give Me Love, but other shelters around the area.
Awesome.
So I think that is all of my, oh, and thank you for mentioning the aggressive behavior. Dogs exhibiting an aggressive behavior, like you said, they're not always aggressive. More times they're fearful. And that's the behavior that they're exhibiting because they don't know how to tell you, I'm scared. So I agree that education is important, and I will do my part to help educate the citizens.
And she does.
And I think most people know it, but Vonna is a professional dog trainer that is volunteering her time to assist with the dog walking program. And she's really good for anybody who may need her assistance.
You know, one of my concerns is that when you say a full-time officer, does the city have funding for that and Give Me Love? That would be my concern there.
That would
Because
be
I would rather see less to animal control and more to Give Me Love, because that's gonna be that's your main thing, you know, that's what feeds the dogs, takes care of the dogs, gets the dogs out. So I just, that'd be a concern for me there. If funding is that low, then, let's not overdo.
I would like to see the information from you guys on how much it was going to cost in order to capacity to care the animals that are at the new shelter, so that council can see it in its budget separate from the animal control, so that we don't take those and put them together. Because I think that even though they do work in tandem together, they are like two separate things. Like one of them is where are we sheltering these, and you guys are doing a great job in that because that's its own deal. And then also the enforcement mechanism, and then also being able to help you guys. I think that's a kind of a thing that we've been missing. And I just want to thank everybody for showing up. I knew that people were going to show up for this. I knew who was going to come in person just because I know the people that are very interested. And then I also want to thank the people that are watching at home, because I know that there's people that couldn't get here. Either they're going to work, they have to work late. You know, I had to run here to get here on time. And I do try and, if I'm going to call for a workshop, I'm going to try and get it here after working hours, but I know that everyone works at different times and whatnot, so I don't want to say, hey, just because people weren't here that they don't care, because I know people will go back and watch this. And so I really appreciate everyone, that goes into the making animal control, and not just the people that are sitting here, but I know this is a big issue and a big effort, and I'm committed, and like I said, I can't speak for the whole council, but I believe the city council is committed to this as well, so.
And Nathan, that point is well taken, because you guys have always been awesome. Old council, new council, Mr. Atkinson, always good to us. I also want to mention, just really quick, our hours. Sometimes people come and we're not there. There's nobody there. We are 100% volunteer based. So we have nobody on payroll. If we had somebody on payroll, we couldn't do it. So we're 100% volunteer based. So if we get an animal that has to go to a vet and the volunteer is running the shelter at that point, she may have to drop everything, lock the door, and put a note on the door, and she's off in the van to the vet. We try to make sure that there's a couple people there. Lately, our volunteers are absolutely amazing, show up and they get the dogs cleaned and taken care of and so on and so forth. But, we have hours that are posted for public, and we have hours that are posted for appointments. I just want everybody to know who's watching, and maybe spread the word. If we're not there, it's for really, really good reason. Either somebody's in stress, we have a rescue run, a vet run, or something like that is happening. But other than that, we always try to make sure that somebody is there during those periods of time, so we can show them the animals, we can answer their questions, so on and so forth.
And to answer your question about the adopted, I have them in transferred, so I did not I did not separate that out. I need to do that. We usually adopt out anywhere from 1 to 2 dogs a month, especially small dogs.
See, it's very low, and that's,
Yes,
and we have to change, we have to work to help change that,
yes.
you know, just for another option, you know. Rescue is a wonderful thing, but getting the dogs adoptable for people who are looking for dogs, so,
I think we've adopted out 5 this month already, though.
that's awesome.
I just have my last 2 things. That's all I'm going to say today. We've been talking about that for years, the prison thing. So can you keep me updated on that? And let me know if the city can help in any way. Second is the SNP bus. I remember at one time we had brought that forward to bring the SNP bus here. Was I talking to you about that at the
Yes.
time?
No snip bus.
Don't do it.
Don't believe it, right? I mean, or don't believe in it, right?
No,
Okay, so nothing from the city. You want the city to sponsor something like that?
No.
not SNP. Well, I mean, I don't want to throw them under the bus. They're not here to defend
Well,
themselves.
okay,
It
what
didn't
about
work for
not
us.
that particular? Is it just that particular company that you don't like, or is it the general
We used them.
any kind of bus?
We
that-
used them once, and we were told to give them an amount, and they would kick back an amount. We never got that kickback, so it cost us probably double to have those animals spay neutered, and it was a battle to try to get something back, and we just finally
It was
just had to drop it.
$3,000 for half a day, I believe, and I think we did like 20 animals, 25 animals, something like that.
20
It
or
was an
25.
outrageous amount. It did not work for Kalinga. We had to go all the way to Soledad with the animals. They wouldn't come here. They would not come to Kalinga. We've had other people reach out to another SNP bus group that's in Bakersfield instead of on that side, and they wouldn't come here either. If we could find a mobile vet that would, oh yeah, that'd be, you know,
Oh, heck
amazing
yeah.
if they would do shelter pricing, you know, but it's really hard to find a vet anywhere, so.
And
If it-
volunteers. If anybody's listening, we need volunteers. We need as many as we can get. We need them to walk dogs, clean, drive. We're going like Paso Robles. Well, we did Morro Bay, now we're doing Paso Robles. That's like a once-a-week trip. And we both work full-time jobs. And most of our volunteers have other things going on, so volunteers for driving, delivering, and being responsible for the animals, so on and so forth.
I know I said I wouldn't talk again, and shockingly, I'm talking again.
Did you get any food?
I'm actually, she just texted me back. So that's what I was going to ask. And what is the age?
Yeah, we do a
Yes.
big group of high school kids.
Close to June.
Yep. Yeah, we do a vast number of high school kids come and get their hours. And we've got a group coming Friday. I don't know, where are they from?
From the middle school?
Maybe you could
Middle
ask-
school that are
could you
coming.
maybe canvass the churches, considering they're very charitable, and maybe let them know
We
where.
have, we've taken our flyers over to the Faith Fellowship at least. And so-
Yeah,
Yes.
as far as volunteers, maybe food donations and.
They're great.
We
Faith
do.
Fellowship is great.
We do have, we have it spread out to all the schools for, we only do 14 and up for the ages. We also have a program with the Hands-On that does, community hours for people who have been in trouble. And we do a lot of court hours.
Oh, that's good.
You
But
know,
they
we
have to
just-
be 14 and up, just liability reasons.
But it's kind of hard with the high school kids. You know, most of them have to be kept inside. They're not really out with the big dogs because it's just, you just don't throw kids out there with the big dogs. So, yeah. But anyway, they do come and they do what they can do, and we appreciate that. We really do. The high school's been very supportive of passing around the flyers and telling the kids come do hours.
You know, I had a question. We were talking, communication seems to be like the biggest thing we have here in the community. Facebook's obviously not the thing for everybody. The TV's not the thing for everybody. How about can we put any kind of a flyer in the city, like a stuffing flyer in the city bill, and talk about the chips and talk about the free clinics we have offered, and just maybe information and print it in English and Spanish?
So we can, we don't do the billing here ourselves as far as sending the bills out. And so we have to, there's a schedule, if you want it to go in a certain month, it has to be to the company before then. And the cost varies depending on if you're gonna print it yourself and give them the copies to include, or if you want them to print them and if they're in color and if they're front and back, but I have that information.
Okay. That might be a thought, that do quarterly, maybe 4 times.
I don't remember.
Somebody go out, yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember how many utility bills off the top of my head, I'd have to check. How much? 4,000. 4,000.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Thank you.
That's an all-day job, make those copies.
Look at his face.
We used to do it in South Community College,
Yeah.
all this stuff. was in the city building.
Yeah.
It's cheap, it's the easiest way to touch people.
So I just want to thank everyone again for coming. I've got nothing else, so if anyone else has anything, feel free.
I would just like to reiterate what they've already said. We have to give these, if we have an animal control person, we have to give them the teeth to cite people. Without that, we have nothing, really. It's just, we had a guy dump 13 dogs up the canyon. We know who he is, we know where he lives. One of the dogs got run over up there, and nothing happened to that guy. And, you know, we see animal cruelty in the backyards all the time. They're chained up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and nothing happens to these people. They can't reach their water, they can't get their food, so we gotta have some teeth for this. That's what George was saying earlier, Lori was saying, and I don't, the police department, I don't know what else we can do, but we've gotta be able to make these guys feel it when they're not taking care of their
I
animals.
know a big help of it's gonna be the citizens actually saying something. That's what's gonna make the difference.
Well, we
And
did.
a matter of them,
We
right,
did.
but all the citizens, a matter of them getting off their butt and actually not being scared to do it.
Yeah.
That's the biggest problem, is most of them, they just don't wanna deal with it.
Well, I'm to the point where I'm not gonna do it because nothing happens to them.
Yep.
I'm frustrated.
Yep.
And I know that a lot of people are feeling that, but that's not the answer for these animals.
No.
So, anyway, something to
The answer's
ponder.
almost to move. Because you get tired of saying something and saying something and saying something and nothing happens, and it's almost, the answer is to move.
And the police, they wanna do something, but they really don't have the teeth. We need, I don't know God, I don't know, but these people need to stand in front of a judge, and the judge need to say, you can never own an animal again in your life, and be fined, because
Absolutely.
it's horrific what's happening. It's
Well,
just-
most real pet owners, their animals are children. They're just like their children. They're a family member. They have they have quirks just like kids do. You can tell anything about that animal, whatever issues they've got, just by how they move, sounds, how they act.
Yeah.
So most of the time, most people don't give the time
This family
to
went
the
to
animal.
Mexico for a month, left their dog chained to the back when we had all this rain in January. It had no shelter, it couldn't hardly reach its water or food. You know, I'm climbing over the fence trying to take care of this animal. Lori and George were out there many times, like you said, fixing things. Nothing happened to that man, and the dog is still chained out there.
And this is up the canyon?
No.
On Joaquin. It's the saddest thing
Oh,
ever.
wow.
So, we need teeth, is what I'm saying. We need teeth.
Have we been able to look at other cities to see how they're handling their issues, surrounding cities, not like San Jose, but cities that are built with the same economic background
Euthanasia.
we have, the same culture we
Yeah,
have?
it's euthanasia.
Euthanasia. That's
They're all
their
They
answer.
do.
handling it that way?
That's what they do.
Okay.
Is there a way we can force with the fine, maybe community hours, and they have to be performed at the shelter?
Yes.
Oh, that's a
Very
good one.
good, Lori.
Good one, Lori.
Very good.
You can't do that?
We've got to realize these are infractions, so community service, you're dealing with misdemeanors or felonies that are given by the judge. But we'll look at, right now, currently, if we issue a citation for an animal violation, it goes to the county, because it's issued on a regular citation. And the county, is that correct? Okay, so if okay, where I come before, it's a regular citation. So if it's administrative citation, then we could look at, we might have more teeth with administrative citation, similar to what we're doing right now with the the gang ordinance we have right now, where it's the fine, if they don't pay the fine, it's going to be held on their property tax. So, we could see if in fact we could get the animal violations in that way. In that case, everybody's got to pay their property tax.
But if they're renters, they don't have that.
Yeah, that'll get the landlords moving, that's for sure.
Exactly, that's when
Yeah.
the landlords come.
It would be only for owner-occupied properties.
Can the city set up maybe like an anonymous number to let whoever know, and I don't know, you guys might wanna decide where it gets directed to, but so the citizens could call in tips and say like, hey, this person has consistently, like, for an example, I know that there's certain dogs that are loose and they're constantly loose, and I just kind of put them back in the backyard because I don't think the owners really know what's happening. There's multiple people that live at the house. It's kind of an accident. I don't want them to get hit. I know there's no place for them to go. They're not doing it on purpose. However, if there is a different situation a couple of blocks down that needs some attention, and their neighbors kind of don't want to, you know, snitch on their neighbors or whatever, maybe if we had an anonymous tip line where people could call in, the citizens can let people know, and then the people who are gathering the data can kind of keep track of, hey, we've got multiple calls on this person over here, and it's coming from all these other people, then you guys can kind of go, wait, we need a citation here or an infraction, or maybe it can kind of be looked at more as like an overall idea of what we can do about the problem, because it seems to me that, yeah, we have a problem in the whole country. I think if we don't do something soon, we're gonna become kind of like Texas, and I'm sure everybody's kind of seeing what's going on in Texas.
Oh, it's
We don't
sick.
wanna get
Feral.
like Texas, right?
They're terrible.
The whole idea of we want to become a non-kill state is because everybody doesn't want to become kind of like that. But if we turn
Worst
into
place
a
I've ever seen.
non-kill state, there's problems with that too. We can't just not kill anything, because then we don't kill anything humanely either. And that's not the answer. The answer lies somewhere in between. The answer doesn't lie with just animal control, just shelter. Everybody has to work together. But I feel like there's a society breakdown in a whole bunch of different issues. I went to somebody's house because they asked me could I help them with one puppy. And when I got there, there was a one problem, and then a whole bunch of people came out and they had cats, and then there was birds, and then there was a couple of teenagers and they were pregnant, and it was like, okay, let's just peel back the onion. And I had to call for other help. Then when I got the rescue to come over with crates, she had the van, they were willing to take all the animals. Then all of a sudden they wanted $50 per animal to take them, and we couldn't do anything about it. Then they refused help. Then I saw them on Facebook advertised for like $20. They didn't end up selling them. Who knows what happened to all those animals? So it's kind of like nothing can be done. Nothing can be done, nothing can be done. But maybe if we had some sort of a place where people didn't have to leave their information, people might call in and turn in their parents. People might call in and say, hey, my brother's doing this and it's making me sick. I don't know that there's any other way to do it without people being able to report the person next to them, because it's getting so out of hand. People just don't care about more than just their animals anymore. It's other things. When you look around and it's not just the animals. When you go and find out and ask them, why didn't you do this with your animal? You find out 3 other bad things that are happening, and I really don't know what else to say. But it's not just the animals. And I don't know if you guys have
No,
anything
you're
to add,
right.
but that's just the thing that we're passionate about, and everybody else is kind of like, when you see what's going on with the kids, it's kind of like, well, now we have to call someone else. So I don't know, maybe if we had an anonymous line or some place where we could gather information about what's going on in the community, you might see the same address coming up from different parts of the community. It might be from the police, it might be from different people. You might get tips from school.
So we don't have a tip line at the city, but we have multiple ways that people can report things anonymously. So on the city website, there's a citizen complaint form that allows you the option of including your information, or you can leave it blank and it will still let you submit it.
I don't think people are willing to spend that kind of time.
There's also an app. The app is my preferred method because you can actually pinpoint exactly where it is. Like if you don't know the address, you can tap it on the map, and it goes to the correct person. And again, you can choose to enter your information. You can choose not to. You can also choose to enter your information and say, I'm giving this to you as a city employee so you can follow up with me, but I don't want you reporting who it is who reported it. You can also email any complaints or concerns to info@coalinga.com. Those just go to me and Shannon. So sometimes people make up email addresses. It'll be like citizen2@gmail.com. Because they don't want us to know, or they'll tell us who they are and say, but I want to make this complaint anonymously. You can also call in, so you can call the code enforcement officer. I don't know her extension offhand. Mine's 111. I don't screen my calls. You don't get someone who picks up before me. If you dial 111, I'm the one who answers the phone. And you can make a complaint anonymously, leave a concern anonymously.
That's a good idea. So maybe instead of like a flyer, could we print on the city bill if you have a animal issue, leave a message for the code enforcement officer, maybe put it in red, just put it on the city
I got a
bill,
better
just, like,
suggestion.
put it in writing and not incur the cost of putting a flyer and making another number, and just advertising that you can leave a message with the code enforcement officer and be anonymous. Like, we have that in place, you can use it, all we need is some red ink and make it bigger.
So I don't think we can change the color on it because it's
No, but I mean,
printed,
you know
but
what I mean. Make it-
it's limited to the number of characters. We can put a message on there, but I'll tell you my experience is that people don't read the notes on the bill. They're more likely to see it if you include the flyer, and even then, sometimes people say, I don't open my city bill, I just throw it away because I pay it online.
I don't know if I even read the note on there.
No, is this something that we can actually get with the school board and see if it's something we can do, like
I'll
maybe
send
once a
home like a
month or once a quarter, so they can do a mass phone message or text as well? Maybe that way?
So we can ask them if they're willing to do that through their phone tree. I don't know if they would be. We can ask, and then Larry may have an idea. There was something that we were gonna automatically opt people into. So when you came in to sign up for utility services, there will be a box that you mark to opt out. If you don't mark the box, then you're automatically saying you're okay, and there's gonna be a way that we can send text messages, correct?
So real quick though, we have been to the elementary schools, education to the kids, bringing it home is key. We have been to the schools and continue to go to schools.
So what Marissa's referring to is called Civic Ready. It is a part, or it's made by the same people that make our website. It's kind of like a secondary thing that they offer. We have it for primarily like if there's like an earthquake or flooding, that kind of thing, right? Like wide scale things like that. But you can utilize it for very, very small things like that, and where you can send out mass phone calls. You can even set up like certain scenarios where you have like a community where you can talk back and forth, and there's like an administrator of that. There's a lot of things that you can actually do with it, and it may help in this scenario, but it's worth exploring. So.
And that's what the For Pity's Sake Neighborhood Watch is for also, is so you can report things going on in your neighborhood about the animals.
You're advertising that you're a whistleblower. You've got your sticker in your window and.
Well, they don't have to put the sticker in the window, they put it on their fridge. But maybe that's what people need to know, everybody's watching.
Some of us don't care.
Right? Everybody needs to know we're watching.
And we have the stickers
We
already.
do have the stickers already made.
How do you spell it? Is it P-I-T-T-I-E-S?
P-I-T-T-Y, I think.
Okay, that kind of pity. I thought you were like, I was thinking like pity as in pit bull.
I want to thank,
For pity's sake.
I want to thank you guys for offering
Look at
this
my
workshop.
van.
I think that it's,
too.
you know, it's a good discussion that needed to be had. And, you know, working together for a solution is very valuable. So I appreciate you guys doing this.
Yes, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you for everyone for coming for tonight as well. We're getting ready to adjourn the meeting. Tomorrow from 4 to 6 here in Chambers, we're going to be going over the contingency drought water rates. So if you guys are wanting to come in and discuss that, we'll be doing that from 4 to 6. And then we'll have our regular meeting at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. That being said, meeting adjourned.
Sorry, I just want to clarify so people don't get confused. The meeting on drought contingency does not have a set end time other than it has to end by 6, but it may end by like 5 or 5:30. So if you want to be here for that, I suggest coming at 4.
Now meeting adjourned.